Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be talking to you about records that have recently been released, and I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions about them. I've done some comparison listens and I'm just going to share with you what I think of them, and hopefully this will not be a controversial video. Hopefully there won't be any trouble. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first one, this is so exciting. I want to talk to you about the mobile fidelity one step of Diver Down. This was a promotional copy sent to me, but Van Halen is my favorite band of all time. I would have gladly paid the price. This runs around $125, so it's not cheap, but it is a fantastic release. And I want to talk to you about it. I did some comparisons. I have several copies of this record, and I'll let you know where this stacks up. I just first want to say that when it comes to Van Halen, anytime I can talk about a release in the present tense is a good day for me, because sadly, Eddie's gone. Van Halen can never be the same again. They can never go out and put a new record out. It would never be Van Halen the way it was with Eddie. Eddie was the heart and soul. Of course, all of the band members I truly love, and they all have their amazing qualities that they put towards the band. But Eddie, my favorite artist of all time, he really was Van Halen. So anytime I can talk about a release from Van Halen in the present tense is a very happy day. And Diver Down, what a great record. The mobile fidelity version was remastered by Krieg Wunderlich at 45 RPM, 2 LPs. It's a good release I want to talk to you about, and I did a comparison shootout with, and I have several copies of this record. So before I received the mobile fidelity version, I pulled out my original US and my original Japanese pressings and put it against the reissue that was done in recent years by Chris Bellman. The Chris Bellman version sounded best to my ears, so that's what I did the comparison with, the Chris Bellman versus the MoFi. And I want to say I have seen a couple of times in interviews where Chris Bellman has said that when he was doing his remastering, he had Eddie Van Halen looking over his shoulder. So I don't think Chris Bellman got to make all of the choices that Chris Bellman wanted to make. He said that Eddie would say, "Oh man, do your thing, do however you want." But then he would come back with, "Well, this, and this." So, I mean, I would have listened to Eddie Van Halen too, who wouldn't? So we've got a little bit of maybe an artist's intent when it comes to Eddie versus the choices that Mobile Fidelity made now that Eddie's gone and didn't have his input, what they were able to do. So let's just talk a little bit. I want to share my thoughts on Diver Down. And I know for a lot of you, you talk about, oh, there's too many cover songs. But let's face it, who did cover songs better than Van Halen? We've got Dancing in the Streets. I think it is the best cover song. I think it blows Mick Jagger and David Bowie's version away. That's just my opinion. You can argue with me in the comments. Where Have All the Good Times Gone? I think is fantastic. I love that. I think they did a great job on the cover songs on this. Pretty Woman, and the originals on here are some of the best originals Van Halen ever did. Hide 'Em High. I love Cathedral and Intruder. I love Little Guitars. It's so fantastic. And it's just a fun album, a fun listen. I also want to mention that this is the album that introduced me to Van Halen. So a lot of you probably already know the story, but I have to share it again. When I was 12 years old, my sister and I shared a room. We loved music. And at night, on Sunday nights, before we had to go to school Monday mornings, we would put on the Dick Clark National Music Survey on WKDQ at Evansville, Indiana, and we would listen to Dick Clark. And he was arriving at the top 10, and he started mentioning Eddie Van Halen. And I remember this I can hear it in my head. I don't remember all the details, but I remember him saying that Eddie Van Halen, for the third year in a row, had won a Best Guitarist award according to some kind of magazine. You know, I don't remember exactly all the details, but I remember hearing that. And in comes the song at number 10, Pretty Woman. And Mom had the 45 of Pretty Woman done by Roy Orbison that my sister and I played as little kids a lot. And I have to tell you that when that melody of Pretty Woman started kicking in, only the Eddie Van Halen style, I was blown away. I'm like, this is incredible. I was just laying there like, wow, this is so fantastic. And Dave and his swagger, the drums, everything about it was perfect. And I had never heard Van Halen before. I maybe have heard him, but that got my attention. And of course, Van Halen would go on to be my favorite band of all time since I was 12 years old. No other band really hits me that way, and I don't know how best to describe it. I think all of us have a band in mind that when we hear them, what they do hits our musical tastes like a glove. With Van Halen, it's excellent musicianship. I mean, you can't get better than Eddie Van Halen on guitar. I mean, Alex on drums, the harmonies with Michael Anthony and Eddie, singing with Dave and Dave's swagger and the ability to deliver a lyric. Everything about that hit me on all the right notes, and I've never looked back. They have been my favorite band ever since. And I also just have to show you this because this is truly one of my prized possessions. Around the time that Eddie passed away, my husband and I, we had been staying for an extended amount of time in Colorado. And we went to a record store in Boulder, Colorado that sadly closed since then. But he had these box sets, and it's the Dick Clark National Music Surveys. And this is the very survey from April 17th, 1982 that I listened to. So I would have been 11 years old. I hadn't even turned 12 yet. This is what turned me on to Van Halen, hearing him talk about him, Eddie winning an award for 3 times and Pretty Woman coming on. Everything about that song was just so phenomenal for me, and I've never looked back. So let's talk about now, I did some comparisons with the Chris Bellman version at 33 RPM versus the Krieg Wunderlich Mobile Fidelity one-step at 45 RPM. So obviously 45 RPM has some advantages when it comes to hearing details. Let's go ahead, and I'll just say this right from the start. Where have all the good times gone? When I heard that, I immediately noticed, out of all of the pressings I have of Diver Down, I heard this increase in the bass. It was just very, very present in a way I'd never heard it before, which led to just this fullness in the room when that song came on. And I also noticed details in Eddie's guitar playing that I'd never heard before, and also in the cymbals. It was just a really clear, immediate notice. Also, when I was listening to Intruder, and I wouldn't say Chris Bellman's version is veiled in any way, but I will say that I did notice a difference. It felt a little like when I was listening to the Mobile Fidelity version of Intruder, it did feel like a little bit of a veil had been lifted, and I would just say it just was more open is probably the better way to put it, and fierce, and on the attack. That's one of my favorite solos that Eddie did. Of course, Eruption is the best solo he ever put on an album, but I really love Intruder and how it goes into Pretty Woman. So incredible. I have a little bit of a complaint when it comes to Pretty Woman, and it's on every copy I have of Diver Down, and I guess it's just baked into the recording. There's just a little too much of a shrillness in the cymbals. I don't know how to explain that other than it's just very present. It doesn't really take away from the gloriness of that song, but I have to mention that. When it comes to Cathedral, you know, both versions, Chris Bellman's and the Mobile Fidelity one step, I melt in my couch when I listen to it. I just close my eyes and listen. And I think on that one, they both are really good. But I have to say, it's a matter of taste and preference. I like the tone of the guitar better on the Mobile Fidelity version. They do sound a little different. There's some tone differences. And for me, I personally like the Mobile Fidelity version. And of course, I'll say this again, this is totally subjective. I will list all of my stereo equipment in this description of my video so you know exactly what I was listening through. And it's just an opinion. We go from that, and then we get into Dancing in the Streets. And that just really turns a corner for me. When I'm listening and doing these comparisons, I mean, just the volume of the bass makes the one step sound so full and the sound stage so large. When I would close my eyes on that song, I could hear details in Eddie's guitar playing, and they were coming really towards me, just really rounding out this huge sound stage. I could hear cowbell more clearly. It was just a really cool experience. Dancing in the Streets was a lot of fun. And then, oh my gosh, little guitars. So amazing. Again, on the acoustic side of things, they both sounded really good. I liked the tone of the guitar, acoustic guitar, better on the Mobile Fidelity version. But again, that is a personal preference. But man, when little guitars, the acoustic starts going into the electric guitar and the drums and that bass kicks in, again, that's where this one step really shines through. The bass is so improved on this one step. Big Bad Bill is Sweet William Now is such a fun song, and the clarinet playing is by Eddie and Alex's dad. So it makes it a little more sentimental when I hear it. The Full Bug is so much fun. Again, the originals on this album are some of the best Van Halen ever did. And it ends with Happy Trails. So I would say if you are a big Van Halen fan, you won't be disappointed with this one step. I personally absolutely love it. The bigger sound stage, the bass, I give it the edge over the Chris Bellman version. But again, remember, Chris Bellman didn't get to remaster it the way he really wanted to. But wow, I think Krieg Wunderlich and the folks at Mobile Fidelity knocked it out of the park. And I'm so happy to be able to say that. Now I want to talk to you about another new release that came out pretty recently, and I've done some comparisons to, and I bought this one step of Tom Petty's Wildflowers. I did buy it from the In Groove. If you can see the label, I bought it from Mike. And my copy is number 849 out of 8,000 or 6,000. I think it's 6,000. I didn't really think I needed this per se. I have the 3 LP set that came out a few years ago that was remastered by Chris Bellman. So I ordered this because I just love the title. I love this album. I'm a huge Tom Petty fan. He's one of my favorites. So I thought, you know, I'm going to go ahead. Usually I regret what I don't buy more often than what I buy, you know, so if that makes sense. I decided to buy this, and I want to say first, I put this one on. This is my 3 LP set that came out a few years ago, and I played it, and I'm like, what have I done? Why did I buy that one step? The one step was expensive. This sounds amazing. This is a great sounding record, and Chris Bellman blew it out of the water. So I thought, oh, I've really done it now. But I put this one on after listening to the 3 LP set and listened to this one step. And I was astonished. I didn't think it could get better, but it went from a great sounding record to, oh my gosh, Tom Petty's alive and well and playing in my room. It was more natural. The soundstage was larger. It was more engaging. I just couldn't believe how great the vocals were. So many beautiful songs on here. It's such an amazing album. I think really you don't know how it feels. Once that song really kicked in is when I'm like, okay, there's no turning back. I think they knocked this out of the park. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they were able to best what was already absolutely amazing. This came out in 1994, the year I got married. Hard to believe it's been that long ago. If you're not as huge of a fan, maybe you don't need to spend the money on that one step. I don't know how you can't be a fan of Wildflowers. It's absolutely an awesome record, and I really love it. But yeah, that one step is absolutely fantastic, and zero regrets on buying that one. I will treasure that the rest of my life. It is a great listening experience. So now I also want to talk to you about some other releases. This is brand new. This is a compilation album that's come out this year from the Omnivore Recordings Company. It's called All Right by Christopher Cross. It is the worldwide singles from 1980 to 1988. And they recently put out that amazing Christopher Cross album that won all of the awards with Sailing. But this is also really cool because it's a lot of his greatest hits. It combines the first two albums, his biggest hits from those, and also some other songs that maybe you aren't as familiar with. You know, his career, he kind of got out of the spotlight a little bit after his second album. What I love about this too is both releases, they're on beautiful color vinyl. The first one that has all of the greatest hits you would hear on the radio: Laura, I'll Never Be the Same, Ride Like the Wind, Sailing. There's so many huge hits on here. Arthur's Theme. That's what you're getting on this first LP. And then on the second LP, you're getting a lot of songs that you may not be as familiar with, but are really good too. And I love that it's also on this transparent green. So beautiful, the colors and the packaging. I live in Florida now, so I'll admit I have a few flamingos around my house. So it hits me in the right spot, and I really love the artwork that they chose for this. As far as sound quality goes, I don't think this is an analog version, but I do think it sounds really wonderful. I really enjoy it. It's at a great price, and I will leave a link below to the Omnivore Recordings website. It's available though. I think it's available at like Barnes & Noble, at Target, and other places like that. This is a promotional copy sent to me. I'm thrilled to have it though. I think it's awesome. This last record I'm going to show you, if you want to try to buy an original, good luck. It's extremely expensive, but you don't have to buy that. You can buy this reissue from the Elemental Music label. This is a beautiful copy of He's Coming by Roy Ayers, and it's a mix of different types of music. You've got him on songs like He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, where he's playing the vibes. Beautiful sounding, but he's also gets a little political, a little funky on some of the songs as well. And again, this is from the Elemental Music label, and it sounds really, really good. It's very affordable compared to buying an original of this. This is definitely an absolutely great record to have for your jazz collection, for your funk collection, because it kind of goes into both categories with the talent that is on here. So I really love this one. It is He's Coming by Roy Ayers. So check it out. I will leave a link to the Elemental Music label, but you can also find this at Target, and I believe it's at Noble, not Noble Records, maybe it's at Noble Records, but I'm talking about Barnes & Noble. So just a really cool album. So these are records that I've recently received that I think are wonderful. Let me know if you have any that you've received lately that you're really excited about, that you want to share. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and the notification bell, most importantly. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.